Do you know how busy it is to become a new creator? To prevent the hard-earned revival tribe from extinction, I personally stepped into the sandbox world I created. The height of one. I am like a towering giant in this miniature world. It was still a brave bug shouting in protest. Expressing the world's injustice, I chose this young one with great potential, and bestowed upon him 3 treasures of civilization. Due to the weakness of the Gilgamesh revival, he became the hero king of the tribe's salvation. But the lifespan of the revival tribe of 40 years is too short. I thought this glorious hero prince would retire to the human world. Unexpectedly, he, unwilling to accept, consumed the heart of power at the end of his lifespan. After a near-death experience, Gilgamesh returned to a young body and publicly led the revival tribe back on the journey. In the first decade of Gilgamesh's second life, he led people to use stones to build houses. The revival tribe officially entered the Stone Age resisting giant beasts. Gilgamesh, imbibed with the blood of the heart of power, could easily hold a century-old giant tree with the strength of the mountain. He led the people to resist the giant beast. After 13 years of warfare, he chose to challenge the most terrifying existence on this land, which is said to possess the strongest power in the world. The legendary 100-meter giant beast from stories. It is the ruler king of the giant beast era in this continent. It is also the creature that evolved to my sandbox's size limit back then. Gilgamesh. The beast fought for 3 full days and nights. The ground cracked. The canyon collapsed. Countless giant beasts fled in the forest. On that day, Gilgamesh was soaked in blood. One hand holding the Damocles, and in the other dragging the corpse of the 100-meter giant beast. His strength could actually drag the corpse comparable to a towering hill. This made countless tribespeople proud. Shocked to the core, countless people wrote songs for him, praising his strength. This is the strongest hero king in history. I have witnessed this moment of his return, seeing the Stone Age tribe suddenly, not just an instant. The tribe burst into cheers. People cried tears of joy, embracing and weeping. They clearly knew, with this great and handsome Sumerian hero king leading them, their days of hardship were behind them. They no longer had to fear the giant beasts. A new era of civilization had begun. History is written by the victors. Gilgamesh did not record the prince's achievements. Record his books, the Book of Genesis. The historical records of the Sumerian dynasty note, Gilgamesh rejoiced in receiving power, slashing the legendary giant beast, establishing the Sumerian dynasty. The stones encircled it, building the very first castle in history. Uruk city continued to push forward in time. The invincible Gilgamesh began to focus on revolutionary development. He worked hard, charmingly charismatic yet brutal, arrogantly tyrannical, established a fair system, yet cruelly divided the populace into 369 classes. He exploited the people, sending countless warriors to explore the world's borders. He was the great hero king of the people, but also a downright tyrant. Sumerian dynasty lasted 87 years. Gilgamesh lasted 120. Uruk finally reached a terrifying population of over 10 million. Countless slaves were traded here. Even an arena was established. The nobles delighted and laughed heartily. The name of the tribe back then. Many have already passed away. Hundreds of years have flown by. Their descendants have forgotten the hardships and quarrels of their ancestors, gradually decaying in comfort. However, the Sioux, King Mel of old, still commands. In the dim and gloomy palace of Uruk, a great and handsome man stands calmly before the exquisite skeletal throne. By his side is a constant presence, a message delivered to Damocles, the great king of the Sumerian city-state, His Majesty Gilgamesh. We have explored the entire region of the Great Palace. The palace minister Dionysius slightly bows, excitedly recounting the swords of these years, what our world is like. Gilgamesh stares at the minister before him. The gleam in Rue Lee's eyes seems to see through the earth outside the palace. In the blue sky, those brave warriors who once explored the world. They appeared from all directions, spending decades of effort, only to establish a journey back and forth, after countless casualties. Finally today, learned about the state of the entire world. Looking at the history of the earth, no matter which ancient great king, had a strong thirst for knowledge and ambition about the world. Dionysius gestures exaggeratedly. Our world is round and vast. The sky is an infinitely high arc. The ground is a perfect square. In the center is a vast ocean, surrounded by mountains and rivers. On this incomparably vast and endless land, it takes over 20 years to reach the edge of the world along the fastest path of the Fincher giant head. Gilgamesh on the throne was silent for a moment, then said, "All right. Kneel down." It is His Majesty Dionysius who rose to leave. He suddenly paused, turned and gazed reverently at their king. This great hero king led them out of the cave, from the farming era of the tribe, into the Stone Age, now entering the city-state era. He slaughtered the terrifying king of beasts, Fenba, leading one, civilization. Over 30 years ago, Dionysius was still a young girl. He was famous throughout the city-state for his charm, thus summoned into the palace by His Majesty, ordered to investigate the entire capital's location. He was entrusted by the king with a great lifelong mission, to map the geography of the city-state, until 30 years later, he returned to the city of Uruk once more. Upon completing his task, he was no longer a young man. but a trembling old man. His eyes clouded. He had not long to live. Yet his majesty still looked young, as perfectly handsome as he was when he first came to advise him as a ranger. Time seemed to have left no trace on his face. What a great monarch this is. Dionysius trembles. His eyes filled with fervor. In these past 100 years, His Majesty has no longer displayed strength. His power has long since become unimaginable. Perhaps in the future, this immortal king of longevity will lead the Sumerian people into the next era of civilization. Our world is round and flat. When the palace is empty of people, Gilgamesh let out a long sigh. He gently caressed the giant sword beside him, as if accompanied by his lover. Of endless ages, the power of the torch has been mastered. The blood of power. I've also completely understood its significance. And the sword of Damocles. But I searched the whole world, and still couldn't find out how it was made. Gilgamesh's whispered secrets, filled with shocked touches on the blade. What material is this? What kind of beast bone is it? Or what craftsmanship of a civilization? Unfortunately, this world is ultimately not the real world. I didn't deliberately bury any or my sandbox. Thus, the civilization in the sandbox can only remain in the Stone Age forever. In their understanding of the world, it'll never be the word metal. To this world, this shiny, hard and indestructible material is mysterious, powerful, and unique. They found the world through a lens. It still couldn't find that great beast of wisdom from back then. Where did he live in this world? Gilgamesh took a deep breath. The civilization possessed by the wise beast is simply unfathomable. This token was gifted to him. The sword of Damocles made him feel like he had gained treasure. But this holy sword that opened up an entire civilization is also warning him of the power named civilization. He only grasped part of the remnants. All in place, just like the secret of how this sword was made. Makes him deeply feel dread and terror. The sword of Damocles seemed like a sword of fate hanging over his head, ready to fall and take his life at any moment. The power of civilization is truly something admirable. Gilgamesh sat on the throne, like a sleeping lion with liquor in his eyes, slowly gazing into the distance, as if looking through 100 years of distant time. The great and towering figure from those days, a colossal giant shining with divine light. With wide palms, he held his younger self, overlooking mountains and rivers. He entrusted 3 precious treasures he was known for. This scene is unforgettable in his life, clear in memory, as if it were yesterday. Unfortunately, my life is about to reach its end. The blood of power no longer works for me. I wish to live out the third life of the great wise beast. I want to see them again, but unfortunately, at this moment, I am chatting and eating with the neighbor's younger sister. And I did not hear Gilgamesh's call. Of course, even if I heard, I wouldn't bother. The life that grows old will eventually die. No one can achieve immortality. Gilgamesh has already lived a legendary life that makes me envious. A glorious life, attracting the attention of millions. What else is there to regret? But I underestimated Gilgamesh's desire for life. After experiencing the fear of death and rebirth, he began to be thoroughly afraid of death. This heroic monarch wants to live out his third life. In the 102nd year of the Sumerian dynasty, Gilgamesh was 142 years old. This legendary king, who already had lifespans of ordinary people, actually started to show signs of aging. He was completely shocked. Enraging the world, he directly issued an edict using the nation's strength to seek the wise ones. At the same time, he gathered talented people from across the land. He began alchemical research into black magic. In no time, numerous giant beasts in the primeval forest were slaughtered. Various parts of their bodies were used for experiments. The once flourishing city of Arad nearly became extinct because of this. History entered the notorious era of tyrannical city-states. The dark sorcery was rampant. In the 13th year of the Sumerian dynasty, a court sorcerer created a potion that could prolong life, thus successfully extending Gilgamesh's life. But soon resistance developed, resulting from repeated use of the longevity potion. No longer effective, Gilgamesh's food is gradually heading towards uncontrollable decline. Death is something that no living being can escape. In greatness, the hero Gilgamesh has lived through 145 years of the Sumerian dynasty, and more than 30 years have passed. Gilgamesh feels his life rapidly fading. This majestic old man sits on a throne and moves, stays still, closing his eyes, murmurs to himself, "My life is about to end. I really don't want to die yet." After sitting in silence for 3 days, Gilgamesh finally opens his aging eyes, chooses to fold. For the sake of time, he orders the selection of the next generation of royal candidates. In an instant, the dynasty erupts into chaos. The great king is dying. The immortal hero king, Gilgamesh, is actually heading towards the end of life. But for a moment, no one dares to speak. The last time Gilgamesh's life aged, he entrusted his most trusted son, even Aga, to become the next leader. However, after living through his second life, he killed himself. Love you most, but everyone is afraid of becoming the next Aga, who is in despair. Because if Gilgamesh could once again live, he would inevitably kill the next generation's king. However, Gilgamesh is indeed the most clever king. He directly orders that the royal candidates will gain immense power, possessing strength comparable to mine. Fearing me, they will receive the authority to lead subordinates in establishing a second royal city, bestowing the blood of power, and allowing the construction of. This news once spread alarms. The throne is mine. I will be the king of Sumer for the second time. Countless merchants, poor villagers, noble craftsmen swarmed to the palace. Eventually, countless people, even though, through their power, still perish unable to bear the heart of power. Only the forest warrior Enkidu and the barbarian Ishtar from the plains. These two obtain the power to establish two city-states. Two kings of the Siad dynasty with the blood of power appear. They are about to alternate in ruling, replacing the soon-to-die Gilgamesh, leading the next generation of Sumerian civilization starting from Gil. Changes hands. But it cannot end in his hands. The Sumerian dynasty lasts for 175 years. Three kings unite their strength. The three kings govern the world together. The Sumerian city-states enter an unprecedented era. Yet suddenly, Gilgamesh feels that death has completely arrived. He begins to attempt a final struggle. He gathers craftsmen to build a palace more majestic than his own Uruk palace, serving to worship the great beast of wisdom. In a massive stone temple, there stands a tall and grand statue of a giant god. In the light, the vastness shines brightly, with one hand supporting the young hero King Gil, gazing softly over the entire vast land, emitting an astonishing aura of white gray. On that day, Gilgamesh led his ministers and all 5 million subjects to pay respects to the great beast of wisdom, hoping that the great giant sage can sense his call. If he can see the great beast of wisdom once more before dying, and to see once again that great and mysterious sage. For so long, Gilgamesh's aging face suddenly streams with tears. After 88 years, the soon-to-die Gilgamesh leads all the palace ministers to worship the temple. He begs for a second chance to see the great beast of wisdom. Oh, great beast of wisdom. Gilgamesh wants to see you again.